Hey guys, it's Kayla and this is On the Fritz. Today I'm going to be talking about my favorite romance books. So today I'm drinking Southern Pecan. It is a brown ale from Lazy Magnolia and it is hella good. Okay, so in no particular order, I actually have books to hold because I have a bunch of books checked out from my library. So I have The Duchess Deal by Tessa. This is historical romance. I love this series so much. So this series is the Girl Meets Duke series, which is kind of, it surrounds these four women that are basically the social outcasts of London. And basically these women bond over their quirkiness and they form a very tight friendship that starts in book one. In book one, this one's kind of a slight Beauty and the Beast retelling. So our hero, he is scarred from war, and when he gets back, his fiance leaves him, and so he is desperate to have an heir. He decides to marry the next willing and available woman, and in comes the seamstress for his ex-fiance's wedding dress, and she's demanding money from him because she made this wedding dress and she never got paid. And so it is their love story. It is a marriage of convenience, which I love so much. It was really fun to see their love grow, and it was really cool to see the Beauty and the Beast nuances in this story. Next we have Lothaire by Kresley Cole. Woo! So this is from the Immortals After Dark series. This is paranormal romance. Ugh, I love this so much. So Lothaire, this is one of my favorites in the series. And he is actually the antagonist in many of the books and throughout the series. So he eventually gets his own book. The Immortals After Dark series as a whole is just bunches of different paranormal creatures like Valkyries, vampires, Lyki, witches, etc. They exist in our world, and it kind of surrounds around New Orleans. And what is happening is there's an ascension. So every so often there's a thing called ascension, which basically puts the different immortal creatures against each other to kind of cull them out, since they are immortal, and to kind of keep numbers low on the earth. But along with that is fated mates start to get paired up during ascension. So the overall arcing story is there's a war building up and slowly starting against the immortals. It kind of starts off where there's like these two different sides, mainly between these two different vampire factions. But as the series grows on, we get new antagonists, new groups, there's gray areas. The series just gets bigger and bigger as it goes along. There's also one of the Valkyries, she's a soothsayer, meaning that she can like see the future, and she's kind of the puppet master along throughout most of the series, and she's kind of the one that is making the mates find each other. And she's doing so because she's trying to either achieve a certain goal in the future or trying to change the future. We're not really sure yet. But like I said, Lothaire he's a vampire. He's one of the oldest vampires. He's an original vampire, and he is a villain. He's a bad guy. And so his love story is just this big buildup because we're trying to figure out what his end game is, what is his purpose for doing the things he's been doing in other books. And we finally get the answers in this book. We get his backstory. But he, like with some other series, he's still not good. Like, he still does some questionable things in this book. He's not perfect. He doesn't just change because he finds his mate. But it is still so good. I love a good series where it kind of builds up to certain characters instead of just being introduced to two new characters. We've seen him in many books before. He finally got his book, and we still see him in books afterwards. He is just such a big character in this series, and his book lived up to the expectations. The steam factor in here is high, it's good, and I just love the series so much. I love this cover. We have Kiss of Snow by Nalini Singh. This is a Psy-Changeling book. I've actually never seen this cover. Like, this looks like it's from the 90s. It's not. So this is Hawk and Sienna's book. This has also been building up for many books. This is kind of an age gap. This is a paranormal romance book. I don't know, from the Psy-Changeling series. The Psy-Changeling series is a futuristic paranormal romance that is set in a future time where there's humans, there's Psys who are advanced humans that have psychotic powers, and then there are changeling, which are shifters. And the Psys long ago went through a conditioning called silence to try to better themselves, and so they shut feeling off. They see it as taboo, they see it as wrong, and they don't show feelings. So they come off very cold, very robotic-like. All they care about is business, procreating, but in a very scientific way. And it's just basically their purpose is for the Psys to thrive on Earth. And so most of the series is a Psy paired up with a Changeling, and the Changeling shifters obviously are very passionate. They show all their emotions on their sleeve. So this book follows Hawk, who is the alpha leader of a wolf shifter group, and Sienna, who is a Psy. I don't want to give away her story too much, but there is a bit of an age gap. I want to say it's maybe about 10 years. And Hawk is just a very tortured soul. Weren't very sure if he was ever going to get his own book. This one is just so full of passion. These two have had a connection since day one, and they've been pushing against it, trying to ignore their feelings, and finally they just come clashing together. And it is so good, it's so romantic, and it's just been such a big build-up for the series. These two, they're another couple that you've seen in previous books and that you see in books afterwards. And yeah, definitely a big highlight from the series. I have a recent favorite is Beard Science by Penny Reid. This is book 3 in the Winston Brothers series. This is contemporary romance, small town romance. We follow Cletus. He's one of the Winston brothers. He's very smart, but he has a bunch of walls up, and he secretly likes to get revenge and blackmail people into doing his bidding. His love interest is Jen, and she has seen the real Cletus from day one, and she suddenly gets some leverage on him and decides to use it against him to blackmail him into helping her find herself a husband, because she wants to start a family and kind of move out from under the thumb of her parents. The Winston Brothers series is so good. I'm not a big contemporary reader at all, and I love this series. It is small town, the family dynamic here, the brothers and their sister, such a close-knit group. Their mom had really recently passed away, so there's kind of that trauma there, but these men are all very strong, confident, good people, and it's just the way Penny Reid writes these characters, and it's just that the two love interests, they uplift each other, so there's no changing for the other person. They're just trying to better each other and better themselves, and I love these books. Look how big this is though. Like, it's a big floppy, I love it. I love Cletus and Jen so much. I've loved Cletus since he was first introduced. I was kind of nervous when Jen was introduced in book 2. I had a feeling she was going to be Cletus's love interest, but her story and growth is so amazing. She's a people pleaser, and she has been her whole life, and she finally wants to stand up and do things for herself and try to decide what she even likes, because she's just been doing everything that her parents has want her whole life. And this is just so good. This series is so good as a whole, but definitely Beard Science is a favorite for sure. Okay, next we have the Black Dagger Brotherhood. We have Love Remind by J.R. Ward. This is John Matthews' book. Oh, I love him so much. So the Black Dagger Brotherhood is a paranormal romance. It is about vampires and basically this brotherhood that is created to protect humankind and other vampires from the lessers, which are kind of like these zombie-like beings that their sole purpose is to kill vampires. So that's kind of that in a nutshell. But John Matthew, we're introduced to him in book 2. He is nonverbal, he cannot talk, but he talks through sign language. And when we first meet him, he was very small and meek and had no confidence. He didn't really know who he was. He was by himself. He had nobody to take care of him. And he's brought into the Brotherhood, and his character growth throughout the series is so phenomenal that it was just led up to his book and his love story, and it just was amazing. I love him so much. He has grown into this confident, sexy man. He just has such a tortured background, and his love interest has such a tortured background. It's so nice to see John Matthews stand up for himself and takes what he wants, and that's what this book is. It is just finally his time to shine. What I love about this series is that we not only get the POVs of the two love interests, but we also get POVs of other characters in the series that not only helps move the overall plot along, but it kind of gets you hyped up for then future books. And I love that so much about this series, is that while there might be a few characters we're newly introduced to each book, but for the most part, we've gotten to know a lot of the characters before they even got their own book. So like I said, John Matthews has been around since book 2. He's had plenty of POV chapters in previous books, or he's just there, he's a side character, but he's involved, and we've seen him grow since book 2, so that when it came to his book, it was amazing. So as you can kind of see, like, that's a trend here. I like it when series do that. I like having been introduced to characters in previous books. That's why a lot of the times in romance books, I don't always like the first book in a series. That's not always the case, but I like it when there's a big build up for my favorite character and their book is amazing. Okay, let's talk about some Ruby Dixon books. So, Icehome Barbarians, my favorite book of that series, I think, is Barbarian's Mate, which is Josie and Hayden's book. This is book 7. In the Ice Planet Barbarian series. It is the final book of the original group of women, and I love it so much because it is kind of builds up to it. So Josie is the last girl to resonate. She has an IUD, so that's kind of why she hasn't resonated yet. Her IUD falls out and she's excited. She's running around trying to find out if she's going to resonate right away. She starts to resonate, and so she's trying to figure out there's only a select few guys that it could be, and it turns out that it's Hayden, who is like her arch enemy, and she is shocked and appalled that he is her mate. So it's like it's like an enemies to lovers romance. It is kind of slow burn just because they do resonate, but they put off it longer than any other character in the series. Hayden is a tortured hero. He is a quiet, grumpy hero, my favorite kind of hero. Lost his family in this big Quee sickness long ago, and he almost died, and so he got a new queen. And so like I don't want to give too much away of his backstory, but this is kind of like a second chance thing for him. He never thought he'd resonate, and he never thought he would have a mate, and so he's kind of in shock. And Josie's appalled because she hates Hayden and thinks Hayden hates her. And so it's just this juicy build up to their love story, and then them fighting it off for a good part of the book before they give in to resonance. Okay, let's talk about the Icehome series. So this is the spin-off series of Icehome Barbarians. It's considered a spin-off, but I say it's very well woven into Icehome Barbarians. So if you've been putting it off for whatever reason, definitely read it. I think it's better than Icehome Barbarians. So my favorite book of this so far is Devi's Distraction. So Devi she was a scientist back on Earth. She's really big into biology, and so she spends her days looking at all the creatures and things that get washed up from the ocean. And so she's dissecting things on the beach. Everyone thinks she's weird. She can care less. She finds the whole planet fascinating. She's happy to be there, and she's a really fun character to read from. And the hero in the deck, I love him so much. So he is a bit quiet and grumpy as well, for good reason. He was excited to come over there. He feels like he's in the way. So he recently lost a leg, so he can't do the things that he used to be able to do. He has to rely on other people. He feels like he's a burden, and so he's been watching Devi constantly at the beach, and he decides to confide in her and ask her if she will make him a prosthetic for his leg. This time in the story, there's going to be this games on the beach, and he wants to participate and show that he's capable, show how strong he is. He wants to participate and be a part of the tribe. And he also he's doing this and so because he kind of gets the feeling that he's going to resonate soon. And so he wants to be strong and capable for the girl that he thinks he's going to resonate to. So this is kind of that trope where it's like you ask someone or a friend to kind of help you to ask them to help you better yourself in the efforts of getting a different person to fall in love with you, but then the two people fall in love during that time. So I love their romance. Like I said, I love both of the characters individually, and their love story was just fun. I love this book so much. Devi, when it comes to the deck, she just asks him bluntly, asks him questions. She's very observant. Their sexual chemistry is very strong right away, but they both kind of fight it off because they think that he's going to be resonating to a different girl in the tribe. It's just so good. I love it so much. Okay, and then I finally want to talk about another Ruby Dixon series, and this is the Corsairs series. This is in the same world, but it's about space alien pirates. So it's kind of like the descendants of the Barbarians, the blue guys, but they're out in space, and there's a ship of these 4 guys, and they're doing their thing. They're working for money, and each of them saves a woman and ends up falling in love with her. But my favorite one is the 4th book. So the 4th one follows the navigator of our ship, and he's been having like an online or like radio relationship with a navigator from a different ship, and they've been slowly kind of falling in love, but they haven't seen each other. They only talk to each other via messages or verbally. And so it's kind of like a twist on like the pen pal thing. I love this so much. It was another build up because it was the 4th book. These ones are more like novella length. They're not as long as her other books, but the romance is just as good. The build-up was so sweet. As you can tell, that's kind of a theme here. And I can't wait. She's going to be writing more Corsair books based off of the other ship members of the other ship. So I can't wait for those. Those are coming soon. If you haven't checked those out and you do like Ice Planet Barbarians or Icehome, definitely check those out. Like I said, they're short, quick reads. It's in the same world, and it's kind of a good little story that exists while you're waiting for the next book to come out in one of those series. Okay, so those are all my favorites. I have some more recent favorites, but I haven't quite read enough in the series for them to make this list yet. So I'll definitely make another favorites video sometime later, but I hope you enjoyed the list. I'm sure some of you aren't surprised to see some of these books on here because I like to yodel and scream about these books all the time. Let me know what your favorite romances are. Do you have a different favorite in one of these series? Let me know. I would love to talk about them. If you think I'm okay or you like my content, please consider subscribing. My social media links are listed down below if you want to connect there. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.